Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, some people call it the greatest show of all time, The Wire. The Wire. Deep Space Nine here on It's All Been Checked Before. It's our favorite. It's one of the greatest. It's second Saturday of every month, including in October. It's All Been Done Radio Hour out of Boxland. Get your tickets at boxland.com, boxlandmedia.com. You can find it. Check out the guys live, or become a Patreon member, or become a Patreon member. You can get the live stream. And early peeks at what the guys are up to if you can't make it to Boxland. So several different options. We love them. It's why we're here to talk to you about The Wire on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And Keith. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Jimmy-Jerome. And we are here to discuss the Deep Space Nine episode, The Wire, not to be confused with the HBO series of the same name. First impressions.
So yeah, I mean, this. I think I was enthralled from the beginning because you're finally seeing some of that the Bashir and Garak interaction that's. I don't want to say stereotypical, but it's blown up to that extent, in retrospect and the memes and so forth, and it's something that they kind of got us wanting more of way back in the first season, and we hadn't really been getting that.
We got a tease of it one episode earlier this season, but yeah, you're right. And
it just kept building and getting better as it went. I would get to a point where I thought it was okay. This is neat. This is interesting, and kind of plateaued here. And then nope, there's another layer they're adding on to it, and it just kept going. So
yeah, you beat me to the punch, Jimmy, because I had always been told that this was the greatest show in television history, and I needed to watch it. Everyone's been telling me that for years. I can't stand the greatest show in television history, so I was a little disappointed. But actually,
all that about The Wire.
Yeah,
you can't stand it.
What's that?
You can't stand The Wire?
I've never seen this is the only The Wire I've seen. I've
watched 2 seasons, and I really like it. I'm gonna watch the other 3.
I need to watch. I know everyone says I need to watch it, so I did.
Very good.
For the bit, Steven, I'm in the same boat as far as that goes. I haven't seen it. People have always said that, and I keep forgetting about it. I was like, oh, okay, I guess it exists.
So, but for this, The Wire, I'm with Keith. I was in from the drop, and I thought it was a good story. I thought the focus on those guys, and we get deeper into Cardassian weirdness, and we learn a little bit more about Garak, but we also get more mystery about him too. Same time. So I enjoyed that. And I'm pretty sure the very end of this episode is the meme, right?
Yes, it is.
Of them just like...
Yes.
Yeah.
What parts were true? What parts are true, Garak? It was all true, Doctor. Even the lies, especially the lies.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I didn't realize that was the meme because
That's the meme.
That's the meme. I had that line in my head coming up. I was like, wait, is he about to say, this is what I would say here if I'm going to say it? I guess it was in my head because of that.
Yeah, so I love that. Yeah, so.
Not my favorite episode DS9 ever, but an excellent episode. I told you there's more to come that's even better, and there is. And I would say this reminded me a little bit of Duet, and I would say Duet's better than this. Different seasons, so we won't pit them against each other.
I would agree with you on that.
It had a few of the same fates as Duet, unfortunately. But overall, good episode. Not only did we get good Garak, which Garak's always good, like a lot of Garak, which is always welcome. Little bits of good Quark and Odo, and actually a good Bashir in this episode, which we desperately needed because we had such a terrible Bashir for the first half of the first season. And then we got better Bashir, but I'd say this is probably the first episode where I really liked Bashir.
Oh, yeah. But going back to that comparison for a moment, back to Duet, I don't know. I mean, it's almost comparable, and when I started to think about it and drill down, I think it's because the stakes were slightly different. Well, not slightly. The scope ended up changing drastically in Duet, and of course you were dealing with the characterization of Kira from that point. That was a huge growth point for her there. So I guess in this sense, Bashir probably didn't have as much growing to do, but in some senses, revealing his character to us, to the audience in this way was like a good punch up in that sense. But just it wasn't like he was changing, but we were seeing him in a different way.
Right, and I guess my argument against that, even though I do agree with your points, I'm playing devil's advocate for a second, was this is the Bashir we should have seen for the last 2 seasons. And the fact that it took us this long to see this version of him is disappointing. Like, this is the version of Bashir I remember. This is the version of Bashir I like. And it's been painful, the long road to get here. His perseverance, his compassion, his intelligence, his love of mystery and ability to solve it, his genius are all in display in this episode in a very positive way. If this was the only episode you'd seen of Bashir, I don't see how you don't come out being a fan of Bashir. I do think overall DS9 has a pretty stellar cast. I would still rate Kira ahead of Bashir, which may be where I'm ranking this slightly lower. Although I don't know if I rank Garrick below Kira. That's comparable for sure.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to pick between the two. Please don't. They're both excellent characters. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Well, there we also have, I guess, the fact that they're on opposing sides of a conflict that is that, complex and the underpinning to the series. Bashir, Garrick picks at him a few times throughout this episode too, and that because the Starfleet smugness and arrogance, and you're over, you have this perspective that's way over here in this idyllic kind of thing, and so you wouldn't be able to understand this, whereas you have Kira and Garrick on opposite sides of this thing that these cultures. So,
and he's not wrong. Like, Garrick's not wrong with his criticisms, which is excellent. It's part of what makes DS9 so good. This was written by Robert Hewitt Wolf, who's one of the key people behind DS9. So no surprise there. He locks in on what makes it work so well. Directed by Kim Friedman, that I want to mention. This is the first time DS9 has had a female director, 2 seasons in. She ends up directing 6 episodes of DS9 and 4 of Voyager, including another episode this season of DS9. So they liked her, as I think they should have, because I think this was a well-directed episode. And they'll use her a few more times. She also directed
and discard her
and some other stuff.
The way you said, let's use her a few more times, and then they're just done with her.
He does only direct 10 episodes of Star Trek total, 6 DS9, 4 Voyager. But yeah. I just think that's notable that DS9 finally got a female director 2 years in, which, yeah, DS9 does a little bit better gender-wise than its predecessors. So it's disappointing it took this long to get a female director in. We start with Bashir yawning because he read a Cardassian novel and found it repetitive.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he was yawning because he was up reading it, but yeah.
Yes, that's true. But I liked the insight that conversation gave us about the Cardassian duty to the state and putting that above. And Garrick basically saying, like, the highest form of art is repeating your duty to the state, which, of course, is an allusion to what is going to talk about his backstory of his total dedication to the state of Cardassia before they abandoned him.
Well, right before they get into that, Bashir says he was up late, and Garrick says, entertaining one of your lady friends, which I think I've mentioned before on here that's an old school term my dad used, and I think his age used for this is not my girlfriend. This is a woman I'm having relations with.
It all comes back around. Everything old is new again.
Yeah, I cannot call somebody a lady friend. They're either a friend of mine or some other term. Because if I say lady friend, then I feel like I'm telling you I'm having sex with her, even though we're not together.
I do think that's a throwback to Bashir's initial role in the series as a womanizer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Before we get away from that, though, I mean, well, first of all, I hadn't really thought about the implications of that term, but also,
because the implication.
What do you mean? But no, sorry, we're not going to get into that. As far as the translator, the universal translator, that sort of thing. Sometimes I forget to think about that, and I hadn't thought about it until just then when Stephen mentioned this is a fairly specific colloquialism, or this is a term you wouldn't think would be on other planets in that way, or be used to that sort of extent. So is this a translator from
No. Keith, there is no way Garrick is using the translator. There is no way he's not speaking English. Garrick is a character would learn the language and learn the colloquialisms. There's no way Garrick's relying on the translator to translate him to Bashir.
That's a theory, though. right?
When they
You're right. You're right.
all the
It's
time
a
to learn the
non-canon
language, he
theory,
took it
but
to heart.
Wait, I'm sorry.
just from what I know about the character, I don't think he would rely on the translator.
Sorry, what was Steven saying? Just then.
When people on the station used to yell at Garrick, "Learn the language," he took it to heart. He actually did.
the Bajoran language
doesn't make any sense, because if you don't know the language, you can say learn the language. I don't know what you're saying. Telling me to do.
Right. No, that brings up another point. There's probably I don't want to derail. There's probably some other lesser episodes where we can get it off on these sorts of things. But I mean,
derailing was last week with the train and Next Gen.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sorry.
No, so we have this is very much that kind of melting pot kind of set. So you've got all these different species coming through there, and you don't really think about. Well, I mean, all right. Slowing down for a second. I mean, these are the kinds of questions that you would expect, like a Jimmy or some other kind of, a person of renown to have all these answers already, like just at the ready. No, seriously, it's I don't know. What is the universal translator more of a Starfleet thing, or is that something that is just most people on Earth have them, most people throughout the galaxies have them? Just
good question.
I mean, I don't know that it's ever been established in canon, but I assume that most species throughout the galaxy that interact with many other species have them. And I would also assume that is something Starfleet freely shares its technology with other races. You know,
it would be in their best interest.
That? Right, exactly. Yeah. So I would assume that the Klingons and the Cardassians are like, sure, we'll take your technology, Starfleet, and add it to our own translation. And yeah. This brings me to my one complaint about Bashir in this episode is Garrick is obviously in physical pain and he just lets him walk away and go back to his quarters.
Well, I mean, there's only so much he can do. Like,
he's a chief medical officer. He could pull some rank. And I know Garrick doesn't have a rank, but he could pull some rank and say, you're ordered to the infirmary or I'm calling security escort.
Well,
can he do that for just citizens?
Eventually he gets a little more like, nope, this is happening.
It was too much. But then that's almost immediately followed up with the Dax Bashir scene where he says, I'm a doctor, not a botanist. Yes. Yes.
I didn't even register. That should have registered.
Oh my God, it registered. It registered hard. I saw it registered to Steven too.
Yes, it did.
And then he does mention Keiko, but he calls her Professor O'Brien, which I love
that.
Oh, yeah. Now we get a glimpse of how other people view Keiko. And if we're not looking at her through Miles' eyes, we probably respect her.
Wow.
Her in some type of esteem.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, Keith, with your wow, but yeah. We get Bashir Moody wondering if he and Garrick are real friends. I understand in this episode, we have reason to question that. I still maintain, at least in my head, that they are real friends before this point, and after this point, they are fast friends forever.
Yeah. Oh, Garrick gets crappy with him, and for whatever he's hiding his whatever is going on. But yeah, I think to me, I thought it was clear the whole time. Like, no, we are friends, but I also understand Bashir being like, maybe we're not. But
yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, you also have to understand why it just. Well, first of all, Garrick being in physical pain, and also he doesn't want to enjoy where I mean, he spells it out pretty well. I guess call back to one of Jimmy's phrases from last week. The idea is no. I mean, I don't feel like they were hitting us over the head with anything. I mean, even when the times when you would, to use another Stevenism there, just. When they were sort of telling, not showing, because this is a telling kind of episode. You have to do that. I mean, you have to start. They have to start expressing their feelings in words with each other to advance that line. But just saying, he was telling us in several different ways, whether he was lying or telling the truth in various ways. He was saying that he wanted to be punished for being there.
Yes. Yeah.
It was his duty thing, and he didn't want to enjoy his time there. He didn't want to feel like he had acclimated in that sense. And so, having a friend,
that's kind of a callback to Duet, right? Because wasn't that the whole deal with Duet? Was that guy wanted to be punished?
He wanted to be punished, but I also think Keith's got another point here of Garrick resisting the friendship.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
but them being friends in spite of Garrick's intentions.
Yes.
Which yeah.
Well, it's snuck up on him is the thing.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
But,
and that's a point in Bashir's favor, and another reason why we actually like Bashir once we get to know him. Right? Like Bashir's persistent. There's a line in this episode. I know this is jumping ahead, and we'll go back. But Garrick says, "Has anyone ever told you like you're an incessant pest?" He's like, "Yeah, Chief O'Brien all the time. I don't listen to him." And I think that while we've seen that in O'Brien's situations where it feels like Bashir's annoying, when he phrases it like that here, all of a sudden I'm seeing that in a different light. That I'm like, no, this is a positive aspect of Bashir. That he does not give up on you even when you give him reason to. And I think that applies to his friendship with O'Brien as well.
Right.
But I didn't get that until he says that to Garrick. And the way he says it, the way he delivers that line, the dismissiveness of like, yeah, no, I know, I don't care. That's not what we're focused on right now. Major point. I came out of this episode loving Bashir. All the bad stuff about him has been erased now. I love him from here on out. And he may do some other missteps that suck like he's done in the past, but this episode solidifies to me he's a great character. I really like him.
Okay, well, ranking the episode.
No, I've got so many more notes. Please do not do that to me. I was just looking for the O'Brien notes. I could cross it out so I don't bring it back up when we get to it. Garrick going to Quark for the first time, that little tidbit of information really gave a weightiness to the moment. Because we have seen one other interaction with Garrick and Quark where we understand they don't like each other. I immediately got it that, Garrick's in deep at this point.
Wait, so we're sorry. Thinking back to that reference, this is when Quark is actually going into the tailor's store, which we never really got to see until then. I don't remember, maybe since
that really was a Quark-centric story, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as even the set, like being inside the store, have we seen? I guess Bashir would have gone in there sometimes for.
Yeah, that might have been the first time we saw the.
One of the early episodes, I thought we did go in his shop early on.
Yeah.
We may have in the previous Bashir Garrick episode, but he was only in one episode, season 1.
I think that was the actual like espionage Bashir trying on espionage.
You're right. That was season 1. Yeah.
So that interaction, I didn't get to I didn't really see them not liking each other per se. But
Garrick doesn't like Quark. I don't know if Quark likes Garrick, but Garrick does not like Quark.
Interesting.
I got that from the previous episode, and I got that again from this one.
I say espionage.
Sabotage. Drunk Garrick was beautiful. And I loved the physical bit of Bashir putting the bottle behind his back and surreptitiously passing it to Quark. It was so good. We talked about
speaking of that, with the advances in transporters from TOS and TNG to this, and maybe TNG, we're already there. Ambulances are obsolete, right? In the 24th century?
What was it? What was obsolete?
Ambulances. I don't know why.
Ambulance.
I'm struggling to say ambulances.
Yeah, it's not often that Next Gen will do a direct transport to sickbay, but we've seen it before, and here, definitely, yeah. As long as you're within a Starfleet facility, like you're in a random remote part of Earth, maybe you don't have that luxury.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, would this be a Cardassian transporter anyway? I don't know. I mean,
it would.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
it would. Yeah. There's a device in Garrick, and Bashir asks Odo for help with Quark to get information about it. We get this really good. Odo doesn't have a big part in this episode, but the insight we get into Odo about how he monitors Quark's communications, which Bashir's like, is that legal? And Odo's like, what's the right thing to do? Well, it has a bug.
He actually says, and I wrote
police statement.
Yeah, he says, well, it's in the best interest of the station.
Yes.
And
I'm sorry, but I'm hating Odo at this point.
Later, Odo says something else about, essentially alludes to what we've talked about before.
The Obsidian Order, being efficient.
Yeah, he's like, well, he didn't say they make trains run on time, but he essentially
That's exactly what I thought. Nazis.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Oh, okay. So several things to unpack there. So I remember Jimmy calling this out at one point, like about weeks, months ago, when I think I brought up that question or something like it.
Well,
the question of where Odo's sympathies lie or his opinions of Cardassians or the regime or whatever, and I think Jimmy might have called ahead to a knowledge of this, because this is almost exactly what you were saying he would say in a situation like that, which was
Yeah, because he said he liked the Cardassians kept the station in order or whatever, didn't he? In that other episode, he said something along those lines.
He says they're even better than the Tal Shiar, which is the Romulan intelligence agency that we know is super efficient and super good. To me, so I really, really love Rene Auberjonois. I love his performance of Odo. So I'm not knocking that when I say this, but I hate Odo right now. I don't trust him. I don't like him. I do not want to be around him.
And I don't like what he's up to, but I do like that they're adding that level of complexity. He's not
like the complexity.
Or he is a cop.
Right.
Depending on how you fall on that. He's not.
Yes.
He's not
such a cop.
It's not propaganda. It's.
I remember in earlier watches being so into the mystery Voda's people and so sympathetic to him as backstory that I overlooked these things. But now in 2024, where cops are awful and our justice system is badly. I know it's always been that way. I just didn't realize it to my own detriment. And now that I realize it and my eyes have been open to that, I see Odo now and I hate him. I hate him so much.
I should not be taking the devil's advocate position for a few reasons here. No, but no, as far as Odo, the person, the character, and his situation, I don't see it as reprehensible as the things that would color our perception here in real life, because he is, as far as, I mean, people, the dissenting opinions of the opposition, we let's say, would make the point that everybody hates them until you need them. And there is some truth to that. I mean, because what else are you going to do in certain situations as far as you're on a station like that? And we've seen Cisco have to figure out how to handle things a certain way, going outside of certain things. I think the reason why it took you this long to dislike Odo is because you've always seen his character you get to see his integrity alongside that.
Yeah,
he's expressing a fairly neutral opinion about something that is, I need to get this done. I don't care about the way that people are going to feel about having how I'm doing it, but you don't think that he's out to. The difference is he's not out to profile. He's not out other than
racial
animus. Yes, he's not biased. He is just doing a job in the sense of he's not pursuing personal vendettas. He doesn't seem to have those kinds of motivations.
Completely agree. I just think he goes too far in his efforts to get to the justice as he sees it.
Well, and I thought it foreshadowed what we get into in the aughts, the Patriot Act and all that kind of stuff. Summer conversation in the Dark Knight gets very into it. And, if somebody's Lucius Fox, people deserve to have their faith rewarded. And I think that's kind of where you were getting to there, Keith, which is, we know Odo has integrity and that kind of stuff, but still, same time, it's like, are we sure? And I mean, I think Lucius Fox, and now this is the Dark Knight part of the podcast, he also is like, I think up until the end of that movie, and I don't think I'm spoiling the Dark Knight, but if I am, stop now, go watch the Dark Knight, come back. At the end, Bruce Wayne is true to his word and destroys that system because he was like, we needed to do this to stop the Joker or whatever. Does Odo need to? TBD.
Well, and I will not do anything that I think's any level of spoiler, but I think there will be plenty to admire about Odo later on. So I'm not saying I'm writing him off for the run of the series.
Right.
I'm just saying in the moment what we've seen so far. This is my opinion of him. I think he's going to have his faith tested, and I can't wait to see that. So
there's still I mean, the subject in general I think is very interesting. I like that we're able to examine it from this perspective rather than what's happening in our actual lives, as I was saying, because that's where the science fictional aspect comes in sometimes, or even a fictional character aspect is someone you can actually write down on paper in a way that you can trust that they mean what they're saying and blah, blah, blah. There was something else. What was it? Oh, yeah. I mean, like, getting back to a Batman or other types of people who have that kind of access to something, or they have to either sort of police themselves or believe themselves to be above something to even be able to what I'm saying. I don't know. When you have somebody who has that kind of integrity, you see being tested over and over again, they would probably start to believe that they are more deserving of to have that power than other people. I can do this because I know that I'm not going to do blah blah blah. And is it true? Who knows? I mean, we you have to hope that they don't, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, all that being said, I still laughed when Bashir was like, "Is this legal? Should you be bugging pork?" And Oda's like, and he's like, "Are you bugging me?" And Oda's like, "Why should I be?" That had to be.
I wrote, Bashir says, "I hope you don't have a bug in my room." Blah blah blah. And that just made me think giggity, because that was a little another callback to the old Bashir or whatever, however you want to call it. But to stay on this point, just for 1 second, belabor it 1 more second. Odo says it's in the best interest of station security, Doctor. Do you want to know what Quark knows or not? And Bashir's like, I see your point. You know what? I'm willing to go along with this. And even though I'm questioning it, I'm still willing to go along with it. So
that's two points you made me think of just then. One is, yes, that's another example of what I was saying before. When it comes down to it, the average person, the below average, the above average, when it comes down to an urgent enough need, they're kind of like, well, rights are rights, but I know that I'm honest, therefore I can use, the other thing was that that the whole giggity thing, we've seen that Odo up to this point is almost asexual or aromantic, so he wouldn't be motivated by that sort of thing either. So it's not like I want to spy on these humans having, it's just like to him. So
Quark has a call with a Cardassian, Glenn Bohica, played by Jimmy Skaggs, best known for Lethal Weapon, Hollow Man, Puppet Master, Cut Third Island. He also did a Star Trek video game besides this, and guest starred in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm and Buffy the Vampire Slayer before he sadly died in 2004. But I enjoyed his brief performance. And he got a whole range of things to play from the beginning, where he's like, oh yeah, Quark, my old friend. Yeah, that Dabo girl misses me. Wait, you've ruined my life.
Oh, that was so good.
Good turn.
That was such It
was really good. And that is such a throwaway part, but you have to give it to somebody with talent. And I thought Jimmy sold that scene.
Yeah. This episode is going to hit this pretty heavily again. And this is something we started, or at least, I think we all did, whatever. Past episodes where we've been working up to this, dealing with the Cardassians and their politics and the positions they put us in as the audience to be sympathetic to them. This was a great example of why I always loved seeing them on screen. There's a sort of similar kind of bearing that they usually present, even though they're this. Well, Garrick is talking about their philosophies in essence, because with literature and the values of the culture. There's just something I love about the presence, the presentation, the delivery that most of the Cardassian characters, the guests especially, or like a Gul Dukat. There's just something about the eloquence of it. Just I don't know whether it's hard to then go back and think about. What have all these characters actually done? What would you think about this person in real life? How conflicted would you feel? And sometimes, that occurs to me in real life when you just meet certain people and again, the quote unquote opposition. It just, you have different opinions about certain kinds of things. You've done different kinds of things, but.
So my next note, Garrick is ready to commit suicide because he's so miserable. We find out what he has. It's an implant from the Obsidian Order that will cause pleasure under torture, but he is feeling like his exile on the station is such torture that he's been using it all the time, which leads to the addiction metaphor. I mean, not a metaphor necessarily, because he was addicted to what it's doing to his brain. And we basically get a whole withdrawal montage of him going off of it, which is, man, that's intense. I get why a spy agency would want to implant their agents with something that can help them resist torture, but brutal. And of course, Garrick is clever enough to subvert the implant and turn it on when he shouldn't be using it.
And I thought it came at just the right time because I was just about to write the note. Get to what we're getting to. Can we get to it? And they did. I'm like, oh, okay.
I want to. I don't want to rush past this because I feel like, well, I mean, we've been summarizing certainly because that's what you have to do, but there were like maybe one or two twists and turns leading up to this, and it was a realistic set of assumptions that we saw Bashir making up to these points as well. You said before about this sort of imitating or not necessarily rehashing, but duet, the same kinds of notes and echoing those kinds of twists. I still bought everyone as it was going along. I was like, this might not be the real answer, but I wasn't like, I wasn't, yeah.
I didn't, but there was one important reason why I didn't, is because I already knew Garrick's first name.
I completely forgot. Yeah.
Had I not known his name was Elam Garrick, I would have been along for the roller coaster ride.
Man. But even really, before we even get to that, though, it was just about the nature of the device, the investigation, things that, they hit I would say the hallmark of a good Star Trek investigation episode, or really any investigation, is when they try to anticipate successfully what the audience is going to think that they should try to do.
Mm-hmm.
Bashir trying to look up medical records, coming up with a plausible explanation. The O'Brien scene is, just business is business, going through there, doing that. Well, it's going to take a couple weeks, right? What's next? That's kind of going down the line and stopping at places where, well, this seems like a reasonable explanation. This has to be what it is. And just the Quark scene with, I love it when they sell things like that. And that's again the whole wrestling thing that I mentioned sometimes. Just the idea of that's the show not tell part. When you have, what's his name, the Kardashian that Quark was talking to,
and Bohica.
Yeah, just seeing that play across his face quick, just like from 0 to 60. Oh my God, my life is ruined. And I kind of felt like something like that might be coming up just because of the way they're like, the little banter and here's just a number. I don't know what it is. And then, yeah.
And I don't want to escape past that. As much as I absolutely love Garrick, despite all the lies and things he was spinning, I believe he did murder Bajorn and Cardassian civilians. For sure. He definitely murdered Bajorn and Cardassian civilians.
Right.
Both. Yeah. Both. His own people and the enemy.
Well,
and that's something we have to keep in mind with every interaction of Garrick, is whatever sympathies we have for him, he is dangerous. And he is still dangerous.
It's like, I guess we're dealing with PTSD with a lot of these people.
Yeah.
And I thought that was his whole thing of like, here's what I did during the occupation, all that. I thought that was another great tell, not show.
Mm-hmm.
But then I followed that up with if we believe him, and sure enough, there was some.
But I think a big difference. Well, I think a big difference though is like Kira killed innocent people in her terrorism acts, right?
Yeah.
But she is on the path to redemption and trying to make up for past wrongs.
Yeah.
Garrick does, despite the guilt that was revealed right now in this story, overall, he does not feel bad about it. And he would do it again.
You don't think so? Well,
no, I don't.
He feels bad because he's exiled. He doesn't feel bad.
Exactly. Yeah. He feels bad about the punishment, not the acts. Yes. And he likes Bashir, but his loyalty to the Cardassians and the Obsidian Order, and this is my view of him as of right now, but I think he does not feel bad about the civilians he killed.
That's interesting.
And while I do think there was a little bit of truth there where he's like, I did feel bad, I let some kids go, and that may be true.
Yeah.
I still think he has his own moral line, and his moral line is not our moral line. Right. And while he does have a line he will not cross, he would kill a bunch of people we don't approve of him killing before he hits his moral line.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's
your moral line and mine might be real close, actually. No, I'm kidding.
So I think one of the reasons why I was able to one of the reasons why I was one of the reasons why I was able to keep buying it step by step, because of the way they kept building upon the things.
Yeah.
So we started off with him talking about what Cardassian priorities are, and that's the literature introduced that the duty and the state and so forth.
Yeah.
He probably really believed that at some point, or at least he subscribed to it, or at least understands the principle of it. Whether or not he whatever. We're moving forward to that.
I think he's still hanging on to that.
Yeah, there's that possibility.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, there seemed to be something very real about, and it could have just been him playing off the physical pain and anguish and so forth. But there seemed to be something about him being ashamed for letting the kids go. I mean, it felt like that could have been the real thing that happened somewhere buried in there, even though he said the exact opposite a couple times and went further this way and went back this other way. You can kind of see like in between there that he feels like he betrayed his principles somewhere in there, and those principles would be like the Kardashian principles. And what would make him feel like a bad person would probably make us feel like he was a better person or a good person. And I think he kept feeling ashamed for even I think right there. I think that's the answer. That the part of the reason why he resists the Bashir friendship is because that reflects those other kinds of ideals, the human ideals, which he doesn't want to feel proud of.
Yes.
And so maybe he's on a redemptive arc in that sense, and he doesn't want that to be. He doesn't feel like that should be redemptive. He feels that like that should be the opposite of Anyway,
I think there's something there that's legit. We get another scene of bad Odo where he's pressuring Bashir to wake Garrick up, and Bashir's like, he may not survive, but Odo's like, all the more reason to wake him up now. And I'm like, oh God, Odo, back off, dude.
Yeah. That was where I started to, or that's the scene where I was disliking myself. That was the ultra cop thing that we're seeing there. That would be the bad side of that kind of. I'm neutral in justice and blah blah blah. But that was where it was kind of.
Well, and credit this series to taking a main character that we're supposed to love and making him choose the wrong side, and a character that we don't necessarily need to love yet, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you should be siding with Odo over Garrick naturally at this point. A character that's been 3 episodes and is an enemy alien race. Mm-hmm. But that's not the way this is written. It's not the way this comes across. And can you imagine, like, Next Generation picking some random enemy for Engie, and on their 3rd episode, all of a sudden, we like them, but we hate Riker in the way he's treating him? Like, I just don't see that happening.
But that was another great Bashir elevation moment of seeing where his integrity is and that kind of and those integrities butting heads and coming out to a point where you're just like, I was just kind of, you kept cheering Bashir through that whole thing.
The scene where Garrick's like, don't turn the implant back on even if I need it, but then Bashir's like, you want me to give up on you? He's like, don't give up on me now, doctor. That is where I think the real friendship sold. Of like, you stuck with me despite me being a jerk. Now, please don't give up on me because I need your friendship right now, even though I don't want to admit that we are friends.
He didn't say don't give him for the physical stuff. That was more like the about the truth and so forth. I thought that was better on the.
No, you're absolutely right. It was about his words, but I still think it was. It was everything. I still think it was everything. I still think he wanted Bashir to save him, despite his protestations.
Should Bashir have had either Nurse Jabara or does he have a backup doctor handle this?
Because of separation, don't treat a family member.
Or who? Yeah, everything.
I do want to mention Nurse Jabara, played by Ann Gillespie, who is a familiar face. She actually did it 1 episode of season 1 of DS9, and she'll do a couple episodes next season as well. But she's best known for this role. It says on IMDb 147 episodes of Ryan's Hope, 6 episodes of 55 episodes of Beverly Hills 90210, and 6 episodes of spinoff 90210. Big character actress with only 36 credits, but a ton of important. She also played Mrs. Geller on Gilmore Girls, Rachel Geller's mom.
Yep. She did an episode of TNG, and then just to connect a couple other things we've talked about on this program, Cop Rock. She was on an episode of that. And then to go all the way back, an episode of TJ Hooker,
great character actress. Love her. Really good. I'm sad she's only in 4 episodes. I'd rather she be more of an Agawa, where we get to see her throughout the run. And
she now is like a high muckaluck, for lack of a better term, in the Episcopalian Church.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I saw she hadn't acted in a while. I didn't know she went religious.
Yeah, she retired to become so I think there's a religious aspect, but on the other hand, I think she was a trailblazer for women rising in the Episcopalian Church. So, but
that's good, but still church. Still church.
She was on the new. Was she on both 90210s or just?
Yes, she was.
Okay,
primarily the old one, but she was in a few episodes of the new one.
Yeah,
I like when they do things like that. So to clarify what Stephen was saying, are you saying that because she was Bajoran, she shouldn't have been the nurse, or?
No, I think I was fine with her being the nurse. I thought that Bashir
should treat his best.
He needed to recuse.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Having a backup, but I was noticing that at the time because that this was like right after Garrick had told the story about letting the kids go. So I thought that, it was that occurred to me that would she feel conflicted about that, but she probably had that impression at the time. And
she seemed very professional. In the couple of interactions where we had a chance for her to like express something, she seemed like, I'm going to save him because that's my job. Mm-hmm. I think, and I don't think this has been made clear, but unlike Crusher, who has a whole staff of doctors, I think Bashir's staff is relatively thin, skeleton crew, and he's the only like real full-fledged, fully educated, well-rounded doctor on the station. I think everybody else that's there is more, they have specialties or they're nurses but they don't have the full training he has.
Right.
Well, and he's a man, so we don't want to
what?
He doesn't have a Dr. Salar that could back him up just as well as Derek asks Bashir for forgiveness, and Bashir gives him blanket forgiveness. I did think that was a little bit too naive, but I also think it was Bashir being compassionate in the moment.
Yes.
Right.
Like, you should give him blanket forgiveness when clearly he's done a bunch of bad crap and you haven't heard it all yet. Be careful what you forgive him for. Like, I didn't make this, but an alternate episode could have been like, he saves Garrick's life, and then Garrick's like, okay, so real talk now. I killed 3 million civilians. And Bashir's like, what? He's like, you forgave me. You're not allowed to be mad.
No take backsies. I was going to say the I guess my impression of that at the time was that Bashir was talking about just specifically because they were really zeroing in on that one incident. I think they were mostly focused on what it was that got him exiled. And I hadn't really thought of it in that sense, but I guess that's why it was relevant to us, or that one story would have been, because he did come back and sort of tell the truth in the sense of this incident, whoever was responsible for it was what got him exiled, or what the fall from grace. And I think that Bashir was saying, whatever the truth of that was, I don't care. And some of that is too, I think you see, I mean, we've all seen how likable Garrick seems.
Yeah.
Through all these things, and just you have to wonder if
charm.
Yeah, and their friendship, etc. One thing that crossed my mind, and I'm just completely the subject is just kind of blowing away there. Was it because he was high on endorphins this whole time? Then I guess is that what makes him seem so bubbly? But we see him at the end, and he's relatively back to normal. He's got that quip. He's got the smirk and everything.
I think the endorphins helped make it easier to put on the facade, but I don't think the facade disappears just because they went away. I mean, just keeping in mind Garrick going forward, I think there's always that edge to him. There's always that danger to him, but he's still going to put on that facade where he's going to be super charming. You still can't quite tell where his loyalties lay. Okay.
I was going to say, so you think it's a facade, but no, that sounds right. I mean,
it's partially a facade. Yeah. I think Garrick thinks it's a facade, but I think it's less of a facade than he thinks it is. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
But only partial. I think even on his best day, it's still partially a facade. He's never as good as he seems. Mm-hmm. You always have to hold him at arm's length, and you can never quite trust what he says.
And going back to that Quark episode we were thinking of.
Yeah.
Where he had to go, he's having, I love that conversation he was having, but what we saw is that he did essentially contact the government and try to use that as a leverage to get back on, get out of exile.
Quark's expendable to him, for sure.
I mean, as much, he was trying to give him the heads up and so forth. I think he was still in his way. I think they were having that conversation, which again, I love the subtext and everything. And he didn't have to do that either, but he still Used it. He used the information.
We're going to have so many more conversations about Garrick as this podcast goes on. I'm just saying, do not think all of his bad behavior is behind him. That's all I'm saying. Don't start trusting and thinking he's turned over a new leaf, because you will be disappointed.
But I'm actually, all right, I will say that I enjoyed being disappointed in this episode. As I said, I kept buying the twists and turns with it, and so let's see what happens.
He is a key part of my favorite episode of Star Trek of all time. That is a season 6 episode that is very Cisco-centric and almost all Cisco, but Garrick plays a key role, and we'll get to that in like 5 years.
Nice.
Bashir goes to Cardassia, which you could say is real too easy and convenient for the plot, but I like the way they justified it with like, Tane knew he was coming. Tane was expecting him. Mm-hmm. Garrick really is Tane's protege. That is all true. And so that really lets them accelerate the plot at a point where the plot could have very easily dragged and pulled into a second part episode, which we didn't need in this case. Tane already knows Bashir's middle name. Man, let's talk for a second about Enberon Tane, played by the great Paul Dooley, best known for Hairspray 2007, Popeye, 16 Candles, Breaking Away.
Wow. All right.
I would argue, while he has a ton of great roles, and he is still alive. Enberon Tane, I was familiar with him before he played that role. It's still one of my favorite roles he plays. And I don't think it's spoilery at all to say this is not the last time we see him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, how could it be? If this was the only time you saw Tane, how freaking disappointing would that have been?
Yeah, it was a great introduction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love Paul Dooley. Breaking Away, he's phenomenal. And I can't remember if he got Oscar nominated for that, but either way, he makes me cry in that. Yeah. But his most impressive credit to me is he co-created and wrote The Electric Company.
No way! With Morgan.
Yeah.
What?
And I know I'm leaving. There's a couple other things he's done. I mean, he's 96. He's still rocking. Yeah, the guy's amazing.
Can you believe that he's still alive at 96? I mean, just looking at him, you wouldn't have thought that 20 years ago.
He was also in the original Broadway production of The Odd Couple. He played
the makeup.
The poker players. When Art Carney left, he stepped in to play Felix Unger. Yeah, just an amazing career, that guy.
Quite honestly, in some of Tane's later appearances, I was starting to be surprised that Paul Dooley was still alive and kicking. So the fact that he's still alive 20 years later.
When I just looked him up now, I was like,
active actor. He is a credit this year or 2023, but
wow,
yeah, he's
close enough.
Yeah,
feels like 2023.
Credit last year, and several in 2020, and a bunch in 2019. So he's slowing down, but he's not done.
He might actually be an alien that has a much longer lifespan. I'm just happy he visited our planet.
Absolutely.
I think he's great. He's awesome.
Absolutely. I can't wait for Tane to come back in multiple seasons coming forward. Tane is going to help Bashir because he wants Garrick to live a long, miserable life. Obviously, that's something we're going to follow up upon. But man, somebody that's your protege and you want them to suffer. It's just Tane is also, despite his handful of appearances, a well-developed character. And man, I hate Tane. He's a good villain, but I hate him. I think you already got that picture, though, when he's like, yeah, I'll help you, as long as he gets to suffer. Like, I don't think it's a surprise to say he's a villain.
There's something, it's not something just occurred to me that hadn't really registered now, because I was stuck in the, have you seen, The Usual Suspects? Yes. Both of you probably. Yeah. You used to be, everyone's familiar with the right, yeah. So, yeah, the whole... the Kaiser Soze-ness of that kind of revelation of Elam, I didn't really stop to think about what that meant for the practical sense of the story. And I think that it's it probably means that Garrick did do it, did let the kids go, and might have even turned himself in, like or he's either saying he betrayed himself or his principles by doing it, or maybe he felt so bad about it that he confessed to his mentor, who did not forgive him for it and exiled him as a result. So
even though Tane's retired, but he still has the pull.
What, oh, that's right. Okay, so yeah. According to the stories, he was already retired when that happened. So
yeah.
Yeah,
he's not the head of the Obsidian Order anymore, but he still has all the influence.
Right.
You can't. I feel
Retired,
like those types of spies don't retire; they die.
Right. It's more like a extended vacation or something like that. He stepped down from that.
I would say it's more of
spotlight,
a anti-figurehead where you put somebody else in place, but you're still pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Garrick has a great line: "Never tell the truth when a lie will do."
No, that was
key to Garrick.
No, that wasn't Garrick. That was Tane.
Oh, that was Tane talking about. Oh, yes, you're right. Because I wrote down Garrick, and that's when he's revealed. That is the best way to sum up Tane as a character. Never tell the truth when a lie.
No.
Garrick taking that to heart influences Garrick.
Yeah.
You think so? Wait. So Tane was saying that about Garrick, though.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that's more Tane's motto. But I think Garrick has lived by it, or at least Garrick thought that was the motto that would please Tane. There's something there about Garrick trying to live up to it, not fully believing it, thinking that's what Tane wanted.
I don't know. We certainly saw Garrick leaning into it at the end, when where during the epilogue and her little he's back to the the wacky smiley Garrick. We're back to the verbal banter.
Fighting with Bashir again, acting like nothing's happened.
Right, but really, just it was all the things being said. Like, what we got up to the meme finally. Yep. That was it was just so satisfying.
And the whole thing where he tells Odo, "I'm not in the Obsidian Order. I have nothing to hide. Go ahead, look into me." Like, oh, that's because he's so confident Odo's not going to find anything because he's hidden it so freaking well. Not because he didn't do anything wrong. He's just confident Odo can't catch him.
Interesting.
I don't know. But yeah, that's all I got. I love this. I love Tane. I love Garrick. I love their relationship. I can't wait for Tane to come back. I can't wait for the fact that we have many, many, many more episodes of Garrick left in the series.
Bashir says, "Oh, I'll be back in 52 hours," which I think we've talked about. There's some
26 hours a day. Yeah.
Which is great.
I didn't catch that.
To go back to our guy Bohica, is the talk about the Dabo girl? Is that like locker room talk?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. I was a little worried there for a moment about the way that conversation was going, what they were implying because of that. Oh, I bet she misses me. And I'm glad they clarified. Yes. I'm glad they clarified that it was probably because she was good at her job and was encouraging him to gamble rather than it being like, she likes being harassed or something. So,
I just took, in my mind, it was just like, I mean, the Dabo girls are half naked, might be a stretch, but they're scantily clad is fair, I think.
Did they mention Marta, the Dabo girl?
Yeah.
I feel like Marta's the one that always gets mentioned because Jake's got a crush on her. I feel like that's the one the Cardassian was into.
They mentioned more than one.
It is.
Well, we're going to meet Lita and get to know Lita quite a bit, but I'm pretty sure Marta's the one every time a Dabo girl is mentioned by name in the series in the first 2 seasons, it's Marta. And I don't think they ever even cast Marta, but she's the one they always mention.
That's one is Hartla.
Yeah.
And
I remember saying like Heartless at the time. I didn't know.
I can't decide in this conversation if they're talking about her and like I said, I'm talking about them being scantily clad or whatever. Well, he says, she would have bankrupted me if the occupation would have lasted much longer, which could also just be, you know what? I would have sat at her table and just given her all my money.
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't think, and maybe it's not as untoward as I think it is, but in my mind, I was thinking of like strippers or that kind of thing, but not necessarily prostitution or any of that kind of stuff. But anyway, and then I thought that whole scene, the way it was shot, it was either this weird not close up, but the weird shot of Quark or the monitor, and never was it both of them, which I mean makes sense, but it was just, I thought it was interesting, especially the look at Quark and seeing the bar behind him. I thought it was cool. So I actually liked it.
I looked. Her name is Marda, not Marta, and she will appear in a season 3 episode.
All right.
They did cast her, so we'll finally see her once.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
After all those mentions of her, and there's a lot of mentions, we'll finally see her.
My last note is my alternate episode is whatever Cisco was up to in this episode because he had 3 lines and he was out.
And so did Kira.
Yeah.
They had like 1 to 3 lines. They were done.
Yeah. Because I even was like, I forgot Cisco was in it for a second. And I'm like, no, yeah, he popped in and popped out.
Since you mentioned that, I remember thinking that's one of the things I liked about the episode is they were drilling down on some of the, well, certainly they were drilling down on Bashir and Garrick, but even just Quark and Odo having some really juicy parts in this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something about it was satisfying to see them all like just up there. Everyone was just the performances were just top tier.
I love the focus on those two. Yeah, and I don't think Cisco needed to be wedged into it for any reason.
No.
I do also like
Jake at all.
Reading his dialogue. There is another episode in there because it's Bashir gives him a hypo. There, how does that feel? Much better. Try not to yell at any more admirals for a while. I wasn't yelling. I was just expressing my feelings.
Oh, wow.
O'Brien comes in. Cisco says, Chief, Commander. Cisco leaves. So there's a whole thing that happened there.
That's fun.
So that's my alternate episode. That's just great. I love it when you drop it in and you just leave it for us.
DS9's good at that. Yeah. My alternate episode is I want a Bashir and Garrick continuation set in the modern day. I know during the pandemic they did the scripts where they read them on Zoom, like as a staged reading without costume and stuff. I mentioned this on our podcast before. Look it up. It's great. Ranking the episode, who was your shady character of the week?
Well, I guess it would have to be Garrick this time.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, this. Are you?
Of course,
you actually got me there. Wow. No, I usually
no other choice. There's no other choice.
Yeah, usually I don't go for that kind of choice right off the bat. I don't even see it until it's this is a main character. And they're literally doing this.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, of course it's Garrick. That's across the board. I could tell. Who was your annoyance? I'm going to jump out and say Odo.
You're right. You're right.
Probably. I don't know if it's annoying, but I didn't like how harsh Garrick was with Bashir.
Ooh.
So he was your shady and your annoyance?
Yeah.
I'm torn now.
I mean,
no, you're not wrong. I think my love for
for a good episode though. So
I think my love for Garrick is so deep I could never call him annoying. But I get your point. I do.
Just that specific part. I don't know if annoying is the right term, but I did not care for him there.
No, I'm gonna go with Odo because of that scene, that hallway scene. Let's step out here, and it almost felt uncharacteristic, but at the same time, both of you kind of touched on this. It was a great portrayal of a bold decision to not pull punches with this kind of character, and to point out, he sounds you love him for all these reasons, but that comes along with this too. We're not going to sugarcoat that. This is what he would do if he had,
Yeah, I probably would have bypassed the spying and Quark scene, especially if we never got beyond that it was just Quark. If it was just Quark he was spying on, okay, whatever. But yeah, the hallway scene is what did it for me too, for sure. And agreed, Keith. I totally agree with you, Keith, that what a bold, brave, brilliant move to go there with one of your leads.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who are you having a drink with?
My man Bohica, and we're gonna have more locker room talk.
That's a good choice, actually.
It's a great choice. I mean, I'm going with Bashir because he needs a drink after all this, but Bohica's a great choice.
Yeah,
Bashir. Yeah, that's wow.
And Bohica might also need legal representation. I'm not I am not licensed in that quadrant.
Cardassia, you're not
yet,
as far as I know. But
I think he does. I think he needs your help. Legally speaking. Ranking the episode, I'm just going to start at the top. I don't know how far down we'll go, but better or worse than Blood Oath. That's number 1 right now. I have to go below. Because that episode just means so much to me. But
yeah, I
wouldn't go any lower. I mean, just full cards on the table. I would put this number 2 for the season so far. Blood Oath just means too much to me to go above.
That's tough because of there's just so much wrapped up in what's going on in Blood Oath. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what Steven says about that.
Well, amazingly, no one's ever told me to watch Blood Oath. So it was the greatest show of all time. I think I agree with you, Jimmy. I'm gonna agree.
Having the 3 old Klingons back, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Great Dax.
Below Blood Oath is the Maquis Part 2, which was a very good episode. I'm still going to put this above.
Yeah.
I'm still going to put this above.
Yeah.
Preemptive Strike, the penultimate episode of The Next Generation. Following her return from advanced technical training, Bajoran Ro Laren is sent to infiltrate the Maquis and finds herself torn between her loyalty to Picard and Starfleet and her sympathy with the Maquis fighting the good fight. So this is our Next Gen Maquis episode. We only get one. And I am really sad that Ro was basically a season 5 character that did one episode early in season 6 and then this. So it's been a year and a half since we've seen her, but I'm so glad she got an episode before the end.
Yeah.
Ro Laren. Until then, live long.
And because someone forgives you and prosper.
And holdover.
Jesus, Keith. 2 hours later.
Held on to that. That's beautiful.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?